Hi guys, Grant Shapps, who used to be the Transport Secretary, was interviewed by Kay Burley about the ongoing rail strikes which have been organised by the RMT and other trade unions. Now, Shapps here accused strikers, along with the General Secretary of the RMT union, Mick Lynch, of grandstanding. Yes, from a guy who changed his name as part of an alleged marketing scam. Now, he got a bit tripped up by Kay Burley here when he suggested that there was no reason for the Transport Secretary to get involved in talks between rail operators and staff. But the fact was pointed out to him that this has happened with the newest Transport Secretary. Have a listen.
Transport Secretaries. I was actually Transport Secretary 3 ago, have both spoken to the unions. It doesn't appear to have stopped them from announcing a whole new set of strikes. So it rather proves the point that we've all been making, myself and the current Transport Secretary included, which is the only way to resolve these strikes is for the unions and the management, the rail operators, Network Rail, to discuss these things, and rather brings a lie to the idea that if only we sat down and spoke, this would all be over, as the unions have been claiming. That simply is not true, because they are still striking.
Yeah, on the contrary, if you had sat down and talked to them, perhaps we wouldn't be in this position.
Well, why would that be the case? We're still in that position with the last couple
why
of...
Why is the present Transport Secretary saying that he will sit down and talk to them now, and you just didn't want to entertain them, they say?
Because the only resolution to this is between the management and the...
So you shouldn't be chatting to them?
But I mean, it's not that you shouldn't. And actually, I had spoken to Mick Lynch in the past as the boss of the RMT.
Oh, okay, then please get your story correct, Michael Green. Which is it? That you spoke to the unions in the past or you didn't? Now, Grant Shapps has said here that he has met with Mick Lynch. And Mick Lynch has actually confirmed that in the past as well. Mick Lynch said that he met with the Transport Secretary. But it was not in the capacity of negotiating a better deal for workers. It was some side issue. They didn't actually sit down with the rail operators together on an equal footing and say, okay, let's thrash this out. See, this is what the government should be doing. There are these rail strikes taking place. What the government should be doing, the minister or the Secretary of State should be bringing both sides together into a room and trying to negotiate out some sort of deal. But they're not doing that. Why are they not doing that? Well, it's easier for the Tories just to blame other people. That's part and parcel of this party and government. But it's worse than that. They don't want the rail operators to negotiate a good deal with workers. And we've seen it ourselves. Just last week, Mick Lynch. Now, you decide, do you believe Mick Lynch or do you believe Michael Green? Because Mick Lynch said that he wanted to do... He received a call to meet with one of the rail operator bosses. And an hour before he was due to meet with them, the meeting was called off. Now, there are two possibilities. The meeting was called off because the business were just pulling his chain. Or, as Mick Lynch claims, they were told by the Secretary of State not to do a deal. Now, there are many things that the businesses can't do. They need certain things signed off by the government. They're not completely independent. So if they want to agree something, they have to have it signed off basically by the Secretary of State. So the government didn't make any comment about it. Mick Lynch is claiming that it was the government intervening here and not allowing a deal to go ahead. And you have Grant Shapps here talking about how, well, it's not our job to get involved in the negotiations. Who do you believe? Do you believe the RMT General Secretary or do you believe Michael Green?
Is simply that it doesn't seem to resolve it one way or the other. And I can prove that point because the last couple of Transport Secretaries have spoken to them.
Yes, you're claiming you spoke to them, to the trade unions, but you do not speak to them together with the rail operators. That's what's important. It's not speaking to the unions and then speaking to the rail bosses and, shuttling between the two. No, you have to bring both together into one single meeting room. The head of the trade union, the respective trade union, be it the RMT or some other, and the rail boss that they have an issue with, or the rail operator they have an issue with. And you should be in the room, or somebody from the government should be in the room, delegating, mediating, I should say. But there's no one. But instead you're saying, yeah, we're meeting with them, because everything has to be separate.
Had a situation where I allowed the unions and the management, who are the only people who can resolve this, to speak directly. Actually, it transpires, it doesn't matter which way you go around this. The unions seem absolutely intent on causing the maximum disruption to hardworking people in this country.
Notice the language here, the hardworking people. Are the rail operators not hard? Are the rail operating staff not hardworking? The people who drive the trains or clean the trains or work in the offices, the people who are going on strike, are these not hardworking people too? See what he's trying to do? He's trying to drive a wedge between, militant unions, militant strikers, and hardworking ordinary people.
It's time for them to stop grandstanding and get this.
Grandstanding. They're asking for better paying conditions. They're asking for a threat that you made some months ago, that they will be sacked if they go on strike and replaced with agency staff. They want that taken away. You're calling this grandstanding. Why don't you meet with them? Obviously you don't want to meet with them because you prefer this to drag on. You prefer to use this as a political football to convince the public to be against these people, to be against the rail workers, to be against nurses, to be against teachers, because it serves your purposes. It serves your goals.
This thing settled. Fortunately, actually, when it comes to rail, there are lots of modernizations that could be carried out, lots of them, which could help to pay for their increase, but they don't want to modernize. They want to keep stuck in the 1970s and before, rather than modernize the railway, and that's a great shame.
If you actually listen, and I have listened to the select committees, when they talk about modernization, they're talking about, yes, in some cases modernization, but in some cases changes to work practices. Now, Mick Lynch was challenged. I think it was Mick Lynch or Eddie Dempsey was challenged on this, and they said, well, why do you have a problem with, for example, driverless trains? And they said the problem with the driverless trains is they can operate in a very limited context. You can't have a driverless train between Manchester and Liverpool. You need to have an operator on board. And even with a driverless train, you need to have an operator as well. And the train companies want to cut costs. They want to eliminate as many staff as possible because that they see that as their biggest cost. So if they can have a fully automated train with no driver, no operator, that's what they want to do. That's where you need government to say, okay, well, if you want to do that, there needs to be certain safety levels maintained. And the Tories are on the side of the businesses here because they want to get rid of protections, like Brexit, get rid of protections for the environment, for workers, for consumers. So the companies want to push through measures that are deemed unsafe by the trade unions. And you have the government on the side of businesses saying that the trade unions are the problem. Now, sometimes trade unions may be demanding more than they deserve. But I believe in this case, many of the requirements are to do with safety to workers and safety to train users. But also when it comes to one of the other reasons they're on strike, it's because of the cost of living crisis and the risk to their livelihoods, risk to their jobs themselves. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.